to get started. Sarah, I just want to jump right in and just tell you exactly why I wanted to have you on the show this morning. You are the epitome of someone who's like going after their dreams and creating the lifestyle that works for you. And I really think that somewhere along the way, a lot of people just kind of like stop dreaming. We have these very clear and big dreams as a child of who we want to be when we grow up. And then sometimes, we get the naysayers that we all get in this life. And then we get small. And so one of the best things that I like about you is that you were able to create the lifestyle of your dreams and to make it work for you. And I just think that's amazing. So just to tell everyone else, Sarah has traveled to over 44 countries, and you've been teleworking for well over 5 years. And right now you're doing business development for a company called Agents of Invest. And it's just been amazing. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of my job is helping individuals like you buy rental property. And so these aren't incredibly savvy investors that own thousands of units. They're
Mhm.
normal people like you and I that want to own rental property. And so maybe someone owns 10 units and they want to grow, or maybe they don't own a house at all and they're renting in an expensive city like San Francisco or Washington, D.C.
Mhm.
And my mastermind, our mastermind, Agents Invest Mastermind, they help people like that grow their passive income by adding rental properties. Then I wear another hat where I work with real estate agents. And that's where I
Okay.
get really excited because I was a real estate agent for what I joke was a hot 5 minutes. Because I realized that to be a really successful real estate agent, you need to like live and breathe a city. And I'm a traveler. And so I don't know what I was thinking when I was 25, like, yeah, I could live in Austin, Texas for the rest of my life. And Austin's so fun. And I can't wait for the world to open up again and visit. But the truth
Mhm.
is that I'm a traveler. And so I needed to create a job and a lifestyle that
Mm.
fit my goals and my dreams. And so you're exactly right. I've been working remotely for the last 5 years, all in the real estate space, which I kind of love that juxtaposition. It's such like a location dependent industry, but yet
Yes.
I've been working from my little MacBook all over the world.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So tell
Thank
everyone where
you.
you are now.
So I am in New Zealand. So for anyone that's traveled New Zealand, I'm in Nilson. It is the northernmost town on the South Island.
Okay, awesome. So as you were like just creating this lifestyle for you, did you have any like self-doubt or anything that came into play along the way? Or were you just always just this confident where you just knew that you were just a go-getter and you could just create this type of lifestyle to have this kind of balance?
Yeah, I think some of your listeners may be like this. Do you guys ever like someone asks you like, "Oh, have you ever like made a three-point shot on the basketball court?" And you're like, "Yeah, of course I have." And then you're like, "Wait, have I actually? Like, I don't know if I've
Yeah.
actually ever like got the ball through the net." But yeah, sure, I could do that. Like I could
Yeah.
do a three-pointer. And so I kind of approach life like that. So when I was 19 and I got an opportunity to go abroad, I was like, yeah, I know how to buy a flight and board a plane and do all of this. And it wasn't until I like got to the airport that I was like, I've never done this before. And so I don't know if that's confidence or if it's just like lying to myself like, girl, you got this. Like everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. That's great though. That's really great.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also wanted to touch on is so we obviously know that the average household income is about 56,000 dollars a year. And so like what do we say to the average person who's making about $50,000 a year and they want to know like how can they get started as in becoming an investor? Like what tips would you have for them?
Absolutely. So you first really need to figure out, is this something that I want to do? And am I willing to live uncomfortably to get there? So
Hmm.
when you're making 55,000, you might be able to live an okay life in the United States, depending on what town you live in. But there's not a lot of extra cash. I mean, your kid breaks their arm, there goes $3,000 if that's your deductible, or your car needs new tires. You weren't necessarily expecting that. So trust me, I know what it looks like to have money that you think is going to be allocated for something, and then that savings just starts to deplete.
Yeah.
And so I'm not ignorant to the fact that a lot of people are struggling,
Hmm.
especially with 2020. However, we've seen more investors invest last
Hmm.
year than we did the year before. And so there is definitely this topic of passive income and financially independent on the tip of most people's tongues. And
Yeah.
I truly believe that rental property is the best way to get there. And so the logistics of that is you should figure out what your goals are. And if you're in a partnership, your partner has to be on board. Because if your spending is not the same or one person doesn't believe in the goal, then none of this is going to work.
Yeah.
Once you have that goal figured out. So for me, it's I want to have $8,000 a month in passive income in
Okay.
5 years. And so I broke that goal backwards and started figuring out what are the action steps that I need to take. So I was analyzing properties,
Mm,
and before I dive more into that, the reality is that at 55,000, you can't afford a down payment on a house. You're just probably going to have to live in it and
yes.
find a way to have your primary house create income. So there's a few different ways to do that. There's actually like a catchy phrase for it nowadays. It's called house hacking. And
Hmm.
so just like I'm into travel hacking, so I have credit cards that I kind of start building up points. So now I'm also into house hacking. And so what that looks like is when I was 27 years old, I bought a little 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath, and I moved into it and I started renovating it while I was living there. And in doing so, I turned it into a 4 bedroom, 2 bath. There was extra attic space and we popped out over the garage. And I did all of that for less than $11,000 in renovation costs. So a lot of sweat equity.
Wow. Yes.
And and my down payment was less than $7,000. And so I'm going to repeat that. My down payment was
Yes.
less than $7,000. And the reason for that is that you can put 3.5 or 5% down if you're going to live in the property. And then you only need to live in the property for 1 year. So that's
Hmm.
exactly what I did. I ended up living there longer, but I moved into the house, renovated it, and then I immediately started renting out the rooms to roommates or tenants.
Got it.
And so
Hmm.
this is where I usually lose a lot of people. They're like, hell no, I'm not living with roommates. Maybe I'm 37 and I have a husband. I'm not living with roommates. Then that's up to you. But if your goal is to find financial independence through real estate, then you have to be willing to live uncomfortably. So if
Right.
that sounds terrible, then there's another strategy you can do. You can put your house on Airbnb, and every time it's rented out, you can go camping or you can go stay at a friend's house or you can go on vacation. There's that option. Then the second option is to buy what we call a multifamily. So a duplex or a triplex. So you live on one side and your tenants live next door. They don't live with you. You don't have to rent out a bedroom in your house. And that becomes a lot more ideal for people. Is it super great? Do you want to live next to your tenants forever? Absolutely not, or at least I don't. But 1 year, of course I can do that for
Yeah,
1 year.
definitely.
So that's exactly what I did last year is I bought a duplex, and again, I put less than 5% down because I lived in the property. So again, that was about I think $7,000. And
Nice.
then my tenants in the bottom unit covered 96% of my mortgage. So I lived in the top unit for almost for free. And then
Oh
of
my
course, I
gosh.
I don't mind living uncomfortably, so I got a roommate. So then I was making over $600 a month. And now that I've moved out and I've replaced myself, I'm making over $800 a month on that property. And that's
Oh
making. So
God.
that's profit. That's not income.
Oh, also.
Yeah.
One of the amazing things that I really like about what you're doing is, you're using your primary income to create like wealth and residual income for yourself. And so I think that's important. That was one of the things that a lot of people don't capitalize on, and maybe they don't even know how to get started. So my next question would probably be, okay, so you have a person, they have the income to invest in a property. How do they find out where exactly they should invest at? What location, what type of characteristics should they be looking for?
Absolutely. So it really depends on their goals. So if let's say I'm a wealthy single woman in San Francisco making $170,000, which sounds like a lot of money for people in the Midwest, but in San Francisco, that's probably pretty average.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't afford something in San Francisco that will what we call cash flow, meaning I can't buy something that will then rent out and it'll cover the mortgage, taxes, insurance. So principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And so I'm in San Francisco. So I'm probably going to look at, hey, I heard that this girl, Sarah, rents in Kansas City and she's making $800 a month profit on her
Hmm.
duplex. Well, then I'm probably going to look in Kansas City, or maybe I'm going to look in a state like Tennessee where the cash flow is really good, or Texas. And it might feel uncomfortable to rent or buy something that I've never even visited the state of Kansas or
Yeah.
Missouri, but the cash flow is there. And so if my goal is to stack up cash flow, then I'm going to do that. Now let's take the same scenario in San Francisco. Let's say that now all of a sudden I'm married to someone who's making the same as me, $170,000. Now all of a sudden he and I together, we could probably afford something in San Francisco. And I might do that even though it doesn't cash flow, but maybe it breaks even every month because I'm building what we call appreciation and equity, or I'm focusing on appreciation as I build equity. And so those
Okay.
are two people both living in San Francisco with totally different goals. We have the single woman who's just wanting to look at cash flow. So she's going to look at what I call cash flow markets, typically in the Midwest. Or someone that's focused on appreciation is probably going to stick around and buy something in San Francisco. And so each person,
Hmm.
again, that's why I said earlier that your first thing you should do is you should figure out what are your goals. Is your goals to build equity and appreciation and play the appreciation game? Or do you need that cash flow every month so that you can grow your portfolio?
Got it. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. I always tell people I show up to these, events like I want to learn too. So it's amazing because, I'm able to learn from your experiences and your successes, and then obviously other people are learning as well. So when you're talking about investing out of state, how do you find the right people to network with and to partner with? And do you have any like horror stories or things like that that you can share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about that question is I think we always want to talk about all the bad stuff, but let's talk about the good stuff that happens when we invest out of state. So I have a
Hmm.
woman who lives in Seattle, and she and her husband, unfortunately, her husband lost his job with
Mm,
2020 and all of the changes. And they were high income earners. And so they immediately were like, "Oh my gosh, we're going to have to completely change our lifestyle." But
mm,
the wife has been studying and really focusing on growing their rental property. So she said, actually, I think if we buy this fourplex in Tennessee and then we buy another duplex or a fourplex, we could actually replace part of your income with the rental income from these properties. And so
wow.
that's exactly what she did. And she ended the year not only replacing her husband's salary, so he doesn't even have to go back to work yet, but
Nice.
they also became accredited investors, which I won't talk about on this because it's a whole nother thing. But if for anyone listening knows what that means, it's a huge accomplishment. And she came to this country not speaking English, grew up on a dirt floor. And because she's discovered out of state investing, she was able to do all of that within 7 months.
Wow. Oh my
Really
goodness.
incredible.
That
And
really
so
is.
it can be really scary, but so is investing in anything. If you're investing in yourself or you're investing in a small company or in the stock market, investing is risky. It's part of the game. And so what we do is we try to eliminate a lot of those risks. And so part of my job at Agents Invest is building relationships with real estate agents in these different towns. And so kind of the cheeky answer to your question is if you're interested in out of state investing, come join Agents Invest because we'll give you, but that's exactly what we do. So if you're interested in out of state investing, you can join our community. I will introduce you to the agent. The agent will introduce you to a property manager, which is, in my opinion, more
Hmm.
important than the agent.
Yep.
Then they'll also introduce you to the general contractors. And so it's really like handing you off to a team that's on the ground and established. And for me, and just like yourself, like my time's really valuable. And so I don't really have time to look at 5 different markets and interview 5 different teams in each of those markets because that's 25 different conversations that I have to
Right.
have with agents. And agents are really good at selling themselves. And so you might get off the phone with Susie and be like, "Oh my gosh, Susie's amazing." Well, no, Susie's just really good at talking and she
Yeah.
doesn't have the credibility behind her. And so what I like about our community is that you're going to find someone that's already worked with Susie and has a long list of accomplishments behind her. So you're not doing any of this blind.
Hmm. That is.
Thanks, Shannon. By the way, guys, I am reading your comments. And so, hi, Kim. Thank you. Let me know what your questions are. I love that you're saying that this is right on time. Thanks, Tracy. Let me know what your questions are related to real estate. And Shannon, thanks for the compliment. I appreciate it. I love talking about this stuff because here's what I really believe is I really believe that this is accessible to people that really want it and are in the
Mhm.
position to do so. One thing I don't want to do is I never want to be ignorant to the fact that a lot of people are struggling and this isn't an option for everyone. But I love to tell the story that I grew up in a pretty wealthy suburb of Kansas City. My friends on the East Coast love to joke like, wait, there's money in Kansas? And yes, there is. Kansas is not just a bunch of fields. But my family, they were really strategic about where they bought their house so that my brother and I would go to a great school. But we were definitely in what we called a starter home neighborhood. And so my dad works for a construction company and my mom cleans houses. And so they had really big dreams for my brother and I, which is why they
Good.
strategically took us into this neighborhood to put us in this public school. And they worked their butts off. And
Mm,
so I had friends who drove really nice cars, had school paid for them, but that's not my story. My story is very different. And I'm sure everyone listening, everybody's story is really different. And what I really truly believe about real estate investing is that anyone can make this possible. You don't have to have the college degree. You don't have to have a
right.
high income position. You don't have to come from money. Your parents don't have to be in real estate. You really can start learning about this stuff today and 90 days from now be writing offers on houses.
Oh, that is so true. That is absolutely true. So, one of the things that I also want to talk about is you touched on the importance of like your family encouraging you and developing and mentoring you throughout your life. What if people don't have that type of support? Obviously they can contact you and get that type of grooming and understanding, but throughout the way, do you have any good videos that people should watch? Any other great tips, or like how do they get
Yeah,
that type of support and know that they are actually working with people that they can trust?
absolutely. And the saying that I like is that you can pick your friends, but you don't pick your family.
Right.
And I'm really glad that yeah, I do have really supportive family. Did they believe in me buying rental property right away? Not really. My
Okay.
dad definitely, but my grandpa like told my mom, I don't think this is a very good idea. And so now every time I talk to him, I mention, oh, grandpa, like this is the paycheck that came in the mail today. Like now do you believe me? And they definitely they don't doubt my accomplishments, but were they 100% on board with me buying rental property at 27? Not really.
Got
And
it.
so
Okay.
I wouldn't necessarily credit that to like what made it possible. I think that I don't take no for an answer. And then I surrounded myself with people that are doing this. And so if
Yes.
people are wanting a free resource, then they absolutely should join the Facebook group Addicted to ROI. It's our
Okay.
free Facebook community. We can put it in the comments.
Mhm.
And that is really the best way to start scrolling through and seeing what people are doing, because these are people just like you and I who are picking up rental property here and there. Maybe they're not buying 10 houses a year, but they're buying one consistently every 12 months. And they're building real wealth and not
Mhm.
income, but wealth.
Awesome. Okay, and so let's talk about a little bit deeper. I know we talked about the 3.5% down payment, but what are some other creative funding options that people may have that are
Oh,
available that they don't
there
even
is
know about?
Yeah, there's so many. So I just interviewed an incredible woman. She became financially independent before 30, and she actually
Mm,
bought her first 7 houses while she was in her 20s. And she bought her first 7 houses not using conventional financing. So conventional financing is like Franny and Freddie Mac. Like when you go to your mortgage lender and you say, "Can I have a loan on my house?" That's conventional financing. She actually bought 7 houses using a ton of different strategies. So one is called private lending.
mhm.
So it be a lot of people are really surprised, but people have money. So like your kind of silent uncle or maybe past boss, maybe they would be interested in lending you 30 to $50,000 if you ask them, and you're giving them, I don't know, 6% interest, 10% interest, and that might be something that they'd be interested in. So there's a lot of kind of what I call secret millionaires in your database that you probably don't know about. And so
Yeah.
you just have to start talking about real estate. And one of the kind of quick tips is I personally don't approach someone and say, oh, like, would you like to loan me $50,000? Because
That-
no, not really. Like, thank you for asking. But instead, you can say, hey, I have this opportunity. I found this property. Here's the numbers on it. Do you know someone that would be interested in making 6% interest on their cash? And then
Got it.
maybe that person is like, still like, no, not me. I'm not going to lend you money. I've known you since you were in diapers. Or they're like, yeah, actually, I'm not interested, but my colleague, I know that he has some extra cash and he might be interested. And so
Mhm.
approaching people, so that's private lending. The other option is what's called hard money lending. And I can recommend you guys to a really great hard money lender. And what they do is they essentially make a business out of lending money to investors and flippers. These are people, maybe they can't get the property with conventional financing, or they don't have a great enough credit score, whatever it may be. There's lots of different reasons to
Mhm.
use hard money. If anyone's interested in using the BRRRR strategy, they can use hard money. So that's another option. The other is you can approach someone that you know and you can ask them to take a HELOC on their property. Or if
Okay.
you already own property, you can do a HELOC. And so that's a home equity line of credit. And it's essentially using your house or someone you know's house as an ATM and taking out a loan on the equity in your house. That's another option. If you already own a property, you can look at cash out refinance. I think most people in 2020 already probably did refinance with the low rates that we've
Yes.
been seeing. But imagine if you pulled out that $30,000 and instead of spending it, you then turned around and bought some real estate property with it. So that's another option.
Amazing. And people are really enjoying this. Tammy said Addicted to ROI. Was that the group that you mentioned earlier?
That is, yep. And I don't know,
Okay.
if I click this orange button, can I type in the chat? Yep.
Yep.
No.
We have someone's typing all that information in now. So everybody, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type it into the chat box and we'll make sure we leak all of this information into the chat caption as
Okay.
well. Okay. So yeah. So so tell me about like your day-to-day life. And I want you to tell the story about your van life too. So what is life
Okay.
like for you right now?
I'm sure people are like, this girl is insane. She like lives with
No.
strangers. She like travels the world. Now, wait, what? She lives in a van? Like, um, so, and thanks, Sean. So yes, so what you just put in the chat, the inner circle, that's our paid membership. And so as a part of the paid membership, we have weekly events. We do group coaching every week. So we have conversations just like this, where we go into a lot more detail. A lot of people are just kind of writing down notes during those coaching calls. They're all recorded. If you join the inner circle, then you get access to all of our investor database. So that is all of the agents that I build relationships with. I can introduce you to them, all of the property managers. You get all of that. That is a paid membership. But I'm really not here to sell anything except for maybe the idea of investing in real estate and living a really big life. And so if anyone's interested in joining the free Facebook group, it is called Addicted to ROI and it's on Facebook. And so what does my daily life look like? Gosh, I mean, every day is so different. So yesterday, I'll use yesterday as an example because it was Monday here. It was Sunday for you guys. So I take Sundays and Mondays off my time. And I'm using it as an example because it was very productive. It was not a Sunday. So it's going to make me look really good. But so I woke up yesterday and I went on a hike, literally out my front door, about maybe like a 15-minute walk because I'm really slow. And it was an hour hike, almost straight up to the actual geographical center of New Zealand. It just happens to be in this town and in my backyard. And I'm on the hike. I have my AirPods in and I'm listening to an audiobook. And I'm just like, how is this my life? Like, how did I get so lucky that this is like what I do on a normal Sunday? Whereas a lot of people have to travel like long and far to get a beautiful hike or make really big sacrifices to do something like that on a Sunday morning. And so it definitely isn't, it doesn't pass me by how incredibly lucky I am.
Yeah.
After that, I have to do a plug. So I'm from Kansas City. So I went to a bar and I watched the Kansas City Chiefs win and beat the Buffalo Bills. And so we're going to the Super Bowl. So you can take
the Bucks. My husband's on here, so he's going to be very excited to see that game.
Yeah, I'm very, very
He's a
excited.
Buccaneers fan.
You can take the girl out of America, but you can't take the America out of the girl. So watch the Kansas City Chiefs game at a bar, and then I cooked dinner with friends. Because I don't know if anyone's following New Zealand, but we haven't had a COVID case, a community case on the South Island for 7 months. So we have been COVID free for 7 months, and so I feel so incredibly blessed. I can hug my friends, go to large gatherings. I went to a music festival 2 weeks ago. And so I know that my life looks a lot different than most people's.
No, but you know what? What I really love about that is I want people to start dreaming again, and
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of doing discussions like this, because we see people like you really were able to shape the kind of life that works for you and that makes you happy and that brings you fulfillment. And you came up with a plan and a strategy to make it happen. And not only are you making it happen, but you're actually sharing that information with other people as well. So it's beautiful what comes about
Yeah,
that when you're living your best life and you're
yeah,
sharing
because
that
it's
information with
yeah,
other people.
it's not a secret. I mean, there's
No,
really there's I don't have any secret sauce. There's really not like anything, except I will say that I was intentional.
you're right,
Um,
right.
I think that like even New Zealand, like that was intentional. Like I literally wrote in my journal like countries I'd want to be trapped in during a pandemic. And then instead of daydreaming about it for weeks, I applied for a visa that day and I got on a plane the next day. And
Yeah,
so I was very intentional. And also with working remotely, I knew that I wanted to work remotely. And so I intentionally only applied for jobs where I could work from my computer, which is funny now because I think most jobs are remote.
yeah,
And so that'll be really interesting to see this like shift in history of what happens to people. But I think you need to be intentional with what you want because
right.
you only get so many trips around the sun. And so you could wake up 5 years from now. And that's often what, even when you started this call, you said a lot of people stop dreaming. And what I hear a lot is people say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky. I always wanted to travel."
Yeah,
And I'm like, and travel is a terrible example in COVID times, I
right.
realize.
No, I get it.
But I think that if something's really important to you, then you need to start taking the steps to make it happen.
Right.
And I think 2020 really gave us time to really reflect on what we wanted. And so I know a lot of people maybe are the kind of person that either has FOMO or you feel obligated to go to certain social events. Well,
Yeah.
now congratulations, you guys all just got a free pass to say like, nope, I'm not coming to that. And you really got to like evaluate like how you wanted to spend your time.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, I love the idea about, I mean, obviously, it sounds like you believe in a vision board essentially, or at least jotting down. Yeah. So I'm really big on vision boards as well. And a lot of people in my circle are. And I just can't, like you said, I can't stress the importance of like actually taking an idea and writing it down and just taking action on it because things do come to fruition, like what you said. So, like, how structured and detailed did you have to be with your day-to-day life to get to where you are now?
I don't think as structured as people think.
Okay.
Um, and maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit with how disciplined I am, but I think there are definitely I think one thing that you should do is focus on the activities and not the results.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is like my health. So of course I'm trying to lose weight and be healthier, like most
Mm-hmm.
people, I'm sure. And instead of being focused on the number on the scale or how many push-ups I can do, which is like basically zero, I focus on the activities. So I make sure that there's vegetables in every meal. Like I said, I go on hikes and I focus on the things that I'm doing rather than obsessing over how many calories I'm intaking or how much weight I'm losing. And I do the exact same thing with real estate investing. And so with right now, it's really difficult to get your offers accepted. And
Mm-hmm.
so instead of focusing on how many properties I'm adding or how much income I'm adding, I'm just focusing on the activities. So I'm analyzing at least 5 deals a day, every single 5 days a week. I try to take the weekends off, which I'm still really bad at. But I'm focusing on the activities. And so I think that for anyone that has a goal, you really have to break it down to actionable steps. And
Mm-hmm.
then you just have to show up every day. And if you don't show up, you don't like, for example, with eating, like if you eat terribly one day, you're not like, okay, like the rest of January is done. I'm just gonna eat like crap every day for the rest of the week. No, you pick up the next day and you start eating better and you make better
Mm-hmm.
choices. And so I think it's the same thing with any goals. Like if you didn't analyze 5 properties today, then maybe tomorrow you make sure that you do five. And if you have extra time, then you do 10. And you
Right.
just focus on the activities that build this.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
amazing, amazing advice. And everybody's loving that. Tracy, Shannon. Yep, I see your comments. Yep, they're loving it. So I want to also ask you, okay, so we have a first-time investor. Let's say we have someone on here and they just want to get started. What's your best advice that you would give to them?
Um, don't read any books.
Don't read any
because
books.
because I think what I see happen all the time is because I've been doing this for a while now, is I have people that came to me 3 years ago asking the same question that you're asking, and they still haven't bought anything. And so I think what gets in the way is people are like, okay, we have to read all the books and listen to all the podcasts and do all of these things before we can do it. And I'm telling you right now that 27-year-old me, I just knew that I wanted to own income producing property. And so I bought something. And then I learned from everything. And that can sound really scary, but here's what I knew is I knew that I could rent it out for more than my mortgage. So I knew that I would break even. And I knew that if I lost $5,000, I would still be able to eat the next day.
Got it.
And so I think taking action is absolutely key. And so if you're a new investor, join the Addicted to ROI Facebook group, pick a market that you're interested in, and start making offers.
Awesome. That is amazing advice. Anyone else have any more questions?
Yeah, and if you guys have questions about more detailed financing questions, or you want me to give you advice on your specific situation, this time is for you guys. I'm here. I'm here for you.
Absolutely. If you have any investor related questions, just go ahead and type them into the chat box down below and we will get those answered for you.
And where is most people calling in from? So if you're on the chat box, just type in, where are you calling in from? I'd be curious.
I know we have some people from Florida, from Georgia.
Those are great places to invest and pick up.
Louisiana, yep.
I have a team in Louisiana. I have a team in Tampa, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Augusta.
Okay,
all right,
we
how
have
did
a question.
you do your market analysis? Oh, I love that. So market analysis, there's a few different factors that I look at. I look at population growth. So are people moving to the city or away? And actually, I think U-Haul did a study, either they published last week or I just read it this morning. So U-Haul did a study on where one-way U-Hauls are going. And I don't have the list memorized, but I saw Kansas City on there, Nashville, Tennessee. And so you want people to be moving there. So population growth. The other is you want to look at wage growth. Are people making more money year after year, which means can they pay more rent year after year? Is there, so population growth, wage growth, crime, you want to look at, is this crime ridden? Is it safe? Are my rentals going to be safe? Are my tenants going to be safe living there? Crime's really interesting too. I call this kind of like the it's not quite black and white, like it's a very gray report. So Kansas City is an example. It really depends on like street by street. So I would look at a crime report of Kansas City and I'd say, oh, wow, it's like crime ridden. Okay, first of all, it's very petty crime and it's really dictated by what street you're on. And so that's where your like market expert becomes even more important, because I can call my realtor and give him an address and he can say, nope, don't buy that. But then I can send him an address that's 2 streets over and he can say, yes, all day long, that's a great rental. And so you really need to rely on an experienced investment savvy agent. Do not just call an agent. Do not call your cousin's sister's, like once was a dentist technician and now she's a realtor. That's not who you want to you want to work with someone who this is what they do and they own rental property. I wouldn't work with a real estate agent that also doesn't own rentals because they just don't get it. And so what did I say? Population growth, wage growth, crime, job growth. So are there more jobs coming in or are there less jobs? This is really important. Pay attention to military bases, universities. Are factories closing or are they coming in? And so those are probably the 4 things that I look at when I'm analyzing a market. And honestly, if you live in a market and you can buy something and then rent it out and make money, buy something in your backyard. You don't have to buy something out of state. I personally like it because it kind of gives me some variety in my portfolio. But if you live in these markets, like I don't know where Riverview is, but Florida is an incredible market. Orange Park. I used to live in San Marcos and Jacksonville for, again, a hot minute. Tampa is an incredible market. It's actually probably one of my favorite markets in Florida. And so, Tammy, I would highly recommend picking up a rental property in Tampa. DC is a little bit difficult. It's pretty expensive, Shannon. And so depending on your income, it might make more sense to buy something out of state.
All right. And I see Kim just said she's been interested in buying a multifamily unit in the past, but she's been too afraid to jump in. Yep, doing too much reading. So that goes right back to what you've been saying, Sarah. Like
Well,
put
that's
the
why.
book down.
Well, also, I mean, your question. It's like people love talking about horror stories. I mean, it's why we love watching reality TV. It's like watching a train wreck. Like people aren't watching all day long just like happy success stories. We're watching like disasters on television, and it's because
Hmm.
it's a bit addicting. And so I think people love to talk about all the terrible things that happen when you own rental property. But I'm here to tell you that I've never gotten a call at 3 a.m. Well, depending on my time zone, maybe it's 3 a.m. for me, but they're not calling me at 3 a.m. their time. I've never had that happen. I've never had like a roof collapse or a fire. But here's the thing, if those things happen, and that would be absolutely tragic, you have
Hmm.
insurance, you have liability insurance, you have things to protect you. And so bad things are going to happen. Like
Hmm.
that's just life. And bad things are going to happen when you own a rental, but you also need to focus on what's all the amazing things that could happen by owning rentals. And I'm
Hmm.
here to tell you that I make $1,200 a month in passive income without really doing anything. And I never thought that to be possible. Like if you had told 23-year-old Sarah that I'd be traveling the world and making mailbox money, I would have been like, okay, am I marrying rich? Like, how am I doing that? And so this really is possible.
I love that. $1,200 in residual income a month. That is
Oh,
amazing.
Tracy, there is this incredible restaurant. I think it's called Biscotti. Have you had the bread pudding at Biscotti in San Marco? It's so good. And I may be pronouncing the restaurant wrong, but I think if you know what I'm talking about, then you know.
Let's see what she says. You know, another great thing about this conversation is like when you think back to like the 1970s when women couldn't even have their own line of credit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I feel so privileged to be here and have this conversation with you with all these other amazing women that we can even like come together and strategize and like share information so we can just continue to feel empowered. I mean, that's like the beauty of this discussion. And I'm just
Yes. And wasn't last week, like regardless of your political party, but last week I think was just this like moment of relief for me because moving forward, like children will never question what women are capable of.
yeah.
Hopefully, because we see ourselves represented in the Senate and in Congress and now as vice president. And I just think it's so amazing like what I'm able to experience versus what even my grandmother, who's incredibly young, because you know that Midwest, you all got to have babies really early, and what she's experienced versus what I've experienced. And I just feel so
Mm.
incredibly blessed to be able to do this. And I mean, trust me, like I'd love a life partner, but I don't need one. Like I'm able to live and do
Mm.
my life on my own, and it would be great. Like, I mean, gosh, double income, no kids. That's like would sound amazing right about now. Think of all the amazing vacations I could go on, but I don't need income from a partner to buy real estate. And so I hope everyone in the back hears me when I say that because it's
Yes.
really is possible by yourself.
Yes. And that's, there's beauty in that too, because if you decide to find a life partner, you're going to be together because you want to be together, not because you need to be together. And to me, I think that's more enjoyable. So
Yeah,
I think that's very
absolutely.
empowering. And then thank you for sharing that. So Tracy said, yes, that's how you pronounce it.
Oh, that bread pudding. I mean, I lived there ages ago, but I still think about that restaurant. Also because I knew the owner. She was this lovely woman. And so, but yeah, that's super fun. I see Sean's in Huntsville. That is an incredible cash flow market. And so you can pick up properties I think you can pick up a duplex for like 180,000 and then turn around and rent it for like 700 aside. So it's a really good market to pick up small multifamily properties.
Awesome. Awesome. Another question that I want to ask you that I think you probably definitely already outlined for us today, but I want to ask you if you can define happiness for yourself. And the reason why I asked that question is because I think it's very important for women to define what happiness and what their life should look like, versus someone else telling us how we should live our life. So, what's happiness for you?
Ooh, I love that. So first, I think I'll be transparent with you guys. There's something that I've been struggling with, especially probably more so in my 20s than I did in my teens, which is being affirmed from other people. So when I got a job, I wanted to be the best at my job. And so how did I feel like I was being the best at my job? Well, first, was I being compensated the way that I wanted? Not really. And then also was my boss telling me that I was doing a good job. and also like were people recognizing my accomplishments. And so that's really something that I've had to work on, because I can't rely on the actions of others to dictate my happiness.
Yeah.
And so that has definitely been something that I've personally worked on. And so if anyone in the group kind of resonates with that, you can't rely on other people's actions to make you happy. And so I think exactly what you just said. I think I really like, okay, what actually makes me happy? And frankly, it's the simple things. Like, it's really good coffee. So I bought this really nice, I call it a percolator, but I've been told that's not actually the right word. It's one of those like Italian cafeterias. And so I bought one of those because I know that I like good coffee. I need to go outside. And so even when I'm really
Mhm.
stressed and really busy, I make sure that I go outside. I'm sure people listening, if you're attending even something like this, I'm sure you're the type of person that loves like self-improvement and educating
Yeah.
yourself. And so I love listening to a podcast, an audiobook. Like, some people that feels like work, but for me, I like love being fueled and like fueling myself. And so I love popping in my AirPods and going on a walk outside. Like, yesterday's walk with an audiobook was like made me incredibly happy.
Oh,
Um, and then I'm an extrovert, and so I love being with people. I know that some people, like, they spend time with others and it starts to like drain their energy. I think I really get filled up. But one thing I've realized this last year is that I'm really careful about who I spend my time with.
mm,
So there are some people that I was finding myself, I would leave the phone call and I was feeling worse about myself.
mm.
And kind of what you said about picking your family, picking your friends is, I mean, you get to choose who you spend your time with. And it now probably more than ever, like, you don't need to feel obligated to spend time with other people. And so you can really distance yourself. And so I did what I called taking inventory. So I took inventory of who in my life makes me feel like the best version of me.
Yeah.
And so I'm really lucky that there are a few friends that just make me feel awesome. Like, I get off the phone with them and I'm like, I'm going to crush my goals, and I'm going to like, I'm a better version of me because those people are in my life. So I make sure that
Mhm.
I make time for them and I schedule a Zoom call with them when I can. Whereas there's other people in my life that maybe the conversation doesn't quite go the way that I want. And so I frankly spend less time with them.
I love that. Angela says audiobooks are excellent. So what tell me a little bit more. I love how you talked about just here taking inventory. I love how you just spoke about really refining your circle. And
Mm.
so I think that's something very important that we need to put more emphasis on as we continue to elevate ourselves and elevate our life. Cultivating a group of people that are going to like empower us and make us feel amazing, even when we have moments behind closed doors where we just don't feel that strong. So how did you like go through that entire process? Did you just like, just let people fade away or?
Yeah, yes and no. Like, at first, I think it was kind of not like, it did start to like fade away. I think for anyone that's like moved away from their childhood home, or maybe you married into a different friend circle and now you hang out with those friends, or for me, it's like as every year passes that I get further and further away from university, like my friend group changes.
Mm,
And the really cool thing about the internet, there's so many things wrong with social media that I obviously am not going to touch on. But the great thing about social media is that I can now join a group for women who love business and love travel. I can join a group for entrepreneurs who make six figures in business who love travel. And so that's exactly what I did. I joined
yeah.
the Digital Nomad Girls community on Facebook, and I joined the Dynamite Circle. And now every week I have a mastermind with the Dynamite Circle. And these are entrepreneurs that are absolutely killing it in business. They either want to live abroad or they already do live abroad. And so we have conversations like, how can we get a second passport? How can we increase our lead generation through our lead funnel? And like, these are not like, for a lot of people, those are like not sexy conversations. But for me, like, I'm like, oh yeah, you should do this. And then you should do this. And hey guys, will you look over my sales page? Cause I'm launching my first virtual summit in February. Like, what do you think about this? And so I was very intentional about that. And what I love about that shift is that it used to be that you're probably going to be friends with your neighbor. Shout out to Kim from the second grade.
Mhm.
But Kim and I didn't have that much in common. So obviously, naturally, we started to fade away. Or it used to be back in the day that if you had kids, then you're probably going to be friends with the mommy group. and there's probably one mommy group in your town. But the beautiful thing about today is you can go online and you can join a meetup group for people that love to play chess or people that love to go on hikes. And the internet allows you to meet strangers that can become your best friends.
That is very, very true. I really, really love that.
I'm
So
sure some
what,
people are like, I'm not going on the internet and like meeting strangers. Well, you should, because it's pretty great.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, how were we able to connect? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're two women that share the same passion for empowering and helping others and sharing information. And then here we are now. And then we have more women that are going to take the conversations that you're sharing and the information that you're sharing today, and then they're going to multiply it, and it's just going to go to more people, and it's just going to circulate. So, I mean, I just think that's amazing. That's great advice too. So, yep, people are enjoying that too. So let me ask you, what's the future hold for you? What are you looking forward to?
Gosh, it's funny. I'm forcing myself to live in the present. So that's something I
Hmm.
don't do very well is I struggle with contentment and like really
Okay.
feeling truly content about where I am. And so you know how some people do like a word of the year. So like they have a word for 2021.
Yeah.
Well, I joke that I have commitment issues clearly because I'm like bouncing around the world and I'm still single and I'm loving my life, but I have commitment issues. And so I have a word of the month. And so my word of the month for January is relax. And so
Mhm.
usually I start off January with like a goal setting weekend, which don't get me wrong, I still did. I like went out into nature with my van and I wrote out all my goals for the year. And then I put that piece of paper away for 2 weeks because like I deserve a break. Like I have been go, go,
Mm.
go, go, go. And I just actually need to like recenter myself and stop focusing on my goals for a week. And with 2020, it just feels like we can't plan anything. And
Mhm.
so, like, I came to New Zealand. You guys, I thought I'd be here for 90 days. Like, I thought I'd be here for 3 months. I arrived here March 15 of 2020. So that was 10 months ago. And I'm still and so you would die. Like I came with a carry-on backpack because I just happened to be like somewhere else for the weekend when I decided to come here. And so everything that I own, everything that I wear, I've just been slowly like building back up my wardrobe while living here. But this was never the plan. The plan wasn't to be in New Zealand. And so I think with COVID, it makes it near impossible to plan ahead.
Mhm.
Um, and so I've just really kind of forcing myself to like enjoy what's going on in the moment. And
Mhm.
I encourage you guys to do the same thing because it's too stressful to like, oh, can we reschedule our wedding? Or, oh, do you think we can finally go on a family vacation? Or do you think things will be better by Christmas? I mean, the answer to all of those questions is I don't know.
Yeah.
And so that's really my kind of transparent and frank answer. But as far as like my goals for myself, ooh, I have so many fun things. I do think that maybe not this year, maybe, but there's a book to be written about what I'm doing. And there's
Mhm.
not enough voices of female real estate investors out there.
Mhm.
And so there's definitely a book to be written. And so that will definitely be in my future. I am going to do a lot more hiking this year. That's like kind of actually my like number one goal. Obviously I have real estate investing goals, but I'm really just wanting to focus on what brings me joy and what makes me happy. And so I have some really cool hikes that I'm forcing myself to actually take days off work and do. So I'm doing my first what's called a through hike. So you actually get dropped off in one location and then you hike from hut to hut. And so
Ooh.
you like carry your sleep. You don't have to carry a tent, but you carry a sleeping bag and then you sleep in this hut along the way. So it'll be like 8 to 15 miles a day. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh, that sounds
And
amazing.
it's on the beach. I mean, you guys, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. If you're not already, follow
Oh,
me on Instagram. I'll be posting my Instagram handle is Sarah D Weaver. And also feel free to PM me if you're getting serious about real estate investing. Message me. Don't ask me what books to read, but you can ask me anything else.
oh, this is awesome. LaBarbara said, yep, it's very important to cultivate your circle. Positivity takes you up, negativity takes you down. It's very true.
Yeah, Barbara, what I found is someone way smarter than me told me to make a yes and no list. And so I realized really quickly, I'm not a huge reality TV fan, and I'm not knocking anyone that is a reality TV fan. But what I found that was when I was feeding myself with reality TV or too much news, it was making me really negative.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like life is hard enough. I don't need to make it any harder. And so I really limited my TV, and it sounds silly, but it made such a big difference.
Yeah.
Made such a big difference. And then I kind of upped the number of hours that I was talking to friends that like really lift me up and make me feel like really jazzed about life. And that made a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, I think that's very important. That's amazing. You're giving such great advice, Sarah. You're so awesome.
Oh, well,
We're gonna.
thank you.
I mean, it's been a joy to hear your knowledge and just to be in your presence because I can also tell that you're a very positive and uplifting person. And just the information that you shared with us because like yes, like what Angela said, knowledge is power. So I'm just so grateful that you were able to be candor, have candor with us and just openly share with us your wisdom and your experiences. And we are going to be sure to link all of your information down below. But like Sarah said, we are going to be looking forward to this book. So we are going to follow you, of course, on Instagram and all of your social media handles. And we just look forward to continue to grow and join this journey with you and become investors as well. So any
Thank you.
last words that you wanted to bestow upon us?
No, just that no question is too silly. And so if you guys have a question about real estate investing or traveling, then just ask it because if you're wondering it, someone else is wondering the same thing. So definitely
Mhm.
reach out, comment. I think it's probably actually best if you comment in the comments with your questions and I'll be sure to check back in. Because if you have the question, somebody else probably does. And I'd love to keep the conversation going because I really think you can add a rental property this year if you want to.
There you go. I can't think of a better way to end this conversation. Add a rental property this year. 2021 has just begun. You can definitely do it. Thank you, Sean, for adding all
Thanks,
of
Sean.
Sarah's social media handles. Sarah, thank you so, so much Again, we're going to link all of your information in the chat box. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to share your information with us. So
Absolutely.
let's
Thanks for
all
having me.
bloom together. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye bye.